Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we have Dr. Eugene Tee. Dr. Eugene Tee is an associate professor of psychology at the Department of Psychology at Help University. Welcome, Dr. Tee. How are you?
Hello, Ernest. Thank you for having me. A very good morning to you, too.
Can you tell us a little bit, Dr. Tee, what work do you do?
I'm a psychology lecturer. I also conduct research on emotions, so scientific studies of emotions and emotions processes. I also teach the subject on emotions, but also have interests in evolutionary psychology as well as positive psychology.
Can I ask you with regard to, there's a lot of talk with regard to positive mindset, positive psychology. How much of it actually does affect a person, or is this just buzzwords by business gurus?
I think when we talk about positivity, it's a very strong selling point. And I think there's a very large appeal and market for positive thinking, optimism, a growth mindset. But what we tend to do is to sort of balance that out with the empirical evidence that's made available to us. So we're not for, say, thinking positively will remove all your problems, or practicing mindfulness is going to cure cancer. Certainly not. We take the empirical evidence and we scrutinize what works, what doesn't. And we then do suggest these strategies to organizations or to clients to make sure that what we are suggesting is based on good science.
Well, Dr. Tee, one of the main reasons why I wanted to reach out to you was specifically for our viewers and for our listeners who are undergoing this MCO, where due to severe restrictions in movement, there's a lot of people who actually who are in the real estate business are finding it very difficult to conduct business as usual because it involves a lot of meeting people face-to-face, which now cannot happen.
Right.
Can I ask you, do you think that this would contribute to mental stress per se?
Absolutely. We have a new mode of functioning, and a lot of restrictions are being placed on us, not just through our movement, but restrictions in terms of how regularly you can see, meet, interact with clients. I think Zoom is great, but it's really not a perfect substitute for true, genuine face-to-face interactions. So certainly the mental stress that we're all experiencing is, in addition to the new ways of operating and functioning, we're also what I like to call cognitively preoccupied with the anxiety and stress of so many things that remain uncertain and beyond our control. And what we do know from psychological sciences is that factors or stimuli that are unpredictable and uncertain can cause us a wide range of really problematic and difficult to manage emotions. Stress, but if we break down stress, then we are also likely to experience emotions such as frustration, anxiety, boredom, and the whole shebang, really. So this mental stress is really in part because of the preoccupation that we have towards so many uncertain and uncontrollable factors. I think we've just also recently, if I could just mention, maybe some of us are still getting the hangover of the political drama that transpired in the nation just before the MCO period actually kicked in. So some of us are dealing almost back to back with so much uncertainty, environmental uncertainty, one political. In this case, right now we're facing a series of health uncertainty. So put two and two together, I think we're well, if I can be even the least bit optimistic about this, I say that we're living in interesting times.
That means that if you want to actually perform better, do better, and I wouldn't use the word survive, but I think to actually adapt to the new future, one has to have a very different mindset and a different viewpoint as to how stress actually is. If not, it will just pile on to you. Would that be correct?
Absolutely. I like the point that you picked up there, and it's because one of the things that I've tried to do, at least for my own, and try to encourage some of my colleagues as well, is to treat this as, yes, there is a survival threat looming outside in the form of an invisible enemy that we know as the COVID-19 virus, but I think this is a challenge to us to adapt to circumstances. So adopting or shifting from a survival mode to one which is a little bit more adaptive per se, this is really a test of our ability to adapt. This is really a test of our ingenuity. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Maybe not all, but a lot of invention. So we need to be a little bit more inventive, courageous, definitely. It's always easier said than done. So I'm also going to temper that with the suggestion that we should be kind to ourselves. Yes, take care of our survival, manage our mental health, take care of our family and friends, stay connected with them, even though we're not seeing them face to face. But also, once you're at a comfortable level, once you're at a comfortable enough position to think about ways to adapt to the situation, now I'd say go for it. I think businesses, individuals, they're all thinking about ways to change their model or their function, their operations of business, and how they continuously deliver value to stakeholders. So I think adaptation is an important concept that we talk about here.
Dr. Tee, can I just ask you with regard to stress, and now there's a lot of stress within the market due to so much uncertainty. How does one actually use and leverage this stress to get them to become better and more resilient?
I like the point that you picked up, Ernest, on resilience. And one of the factors that shapes resilience is our ability to adapt to circumstances. So let's pick up on this idea of adaptation. When we see threats in our immediate environment, we think the worst possible. We have this natural tendency to first move towards catastrophizing about this entire situation. And this is further compounded with the fact that a lot of things still are up in the air. They remain uncertain. We don't know how long we'll still be in this movement control order or under our own house arrest. But I would say this is an opportunity as well. Once we can get to a comfortable baseline, once we have attended to our survival needs, to think about ways of creatively, innovatively adapting to the situation and our circumstances. So this applies not just to individuals who might want to take this opportunity to upskill, or power to them, but when they say that necessity is the mother of all invention, or most invention anyway, this applies to businesses who need to find ways to remodel, reinvent, sort of rework their systems and operations so that they can still continuously deliver value to stakeholders. Resilience and adaptation go hand in hand, and I think the same set of applications applies to whether you're upskilling, adapting yourself and your skills to new circumstances and environments, and as well to businesses.
Just out of curiosity, because these changes are imposed upon you, and due to the very short period when everything comes in at all angles, understandably, some people will be able to adapt to stress better. Maybe those were people who have been always exposed to dealing with many uncertainties in their life at that one point in time. And then you have on the other side, whereby people love stability, love the cocoon, and all of a sudden things are happening. And you have two different sets of mindsets in terms of how they look at stress. I just want to address these two individuals separately, because I think the comments would be a little bit different for both in terms of how they can actually address their stress and how they can actually get away from the mental issues that may fester to become something bigger. For the people who are already very used to dealing with a lot of stress, and now more stress has come in, is there any advice for these people, how they can proceed with managing their stress better?
Great question, and also a rather challenging question, if I should say so. I think these individuals have a comfortable level of stress already. Oftentimes, I like to use the metaphor of, very simplistically, a balloon. So the amount of stress that you can take depends on how comfortable you are blowing up this balloon before it actually pops, right? So I think individuals who are a little bit more comfortable with dealing with stress, uncertainty, they've gotten used to the nature of their work, which might be typified by a lot of levels of uncertainty and unpredictability. The balloons, the stress balloons actually can be blown up a lot more before it goes pop. So for these groups of individuals, I would think you have the experience, you have the past experience of having to deal with such stress, but make sure that you don't tip yourself up over past a point where it starts affecting your health. Stress may be something that you feel that you're comfortable dealing with, but also listen to your body. Also listen to your physiological responses. We recently heard an interview from Anthony Fauci, who is the director for Center of Disease Control, and he was saying that he was experiencing burnout because he was actually going the entire day without actually eating anything. So I think in his own words, he was saying that he was hypoglycemic by the end of the day. So listen to your body. And his wife actually had to tell him that, you have to slow down because you have to catch up on your sleep. I know that you're used to working in such difficult, demanding, and stressful situations, but you also need to take care for your health and your sleep and your diet as well. So to these individuals, I'd say listen to your body a little bit more, and listen to the advice of your loved ones who might give you indications as to whether you are really, really hitting that burnout phase of the current situation.
And for the flip side, on the other extreme, whereby a person who basically wants everything squared, everything stable, now all of a sudden it's not just one factor that's evolving or changing, it's everything is evolving and changing. How would you advise them to all of a sudden deal with all this stress?
I'm going to give an advice that I've given to a lot of my friends right now, and shout out to my colleagues from the Department of Psychology at Help University who are really struggling through these unprecedented times. I would say, very simply, to be patient and to be kind to yourself. We're dealing with a very, very uncertain, very turbulent, unprecedented time. This pandemic happens once every, I think the last one was more than a century ago. So don't beat yourself up with thoughts that you're not able to cope at work, or that you're not able to get to that email at the very last moment, or you missed out on an email and then someone actually sends an follow-up, hey, have you read into this? Have you looked into this? There is a practice from psychology which we call self-compassion. So speaking to yourself, understanding yourself, being empathetic to yourself as you would to a best friend. So to these individuals, I would say there's nothing wrong with you at the moment. We're all struggling to different degrees. It doesn't help to compare yourself with, say, the person who's still, taking things as per normal. Be kind to yourself. Understand that a lot of us out there are also experiencing these difficult times. We just don't share it. I think part of the reason is because we don't feel comfortable sharing it. We feel this aversion to expose our vulnerabilities to others. But allow me to reassure you that there are people out there who are struggling, who are finding it difficult. They're just not saying it. So they're in isolation, and they don't have good, strong social connections, social networks. But yeah, I would say be kind to yourself, be patient to yourself as well during this time. And then definitely keep in touch with people who can help you out during this time.
Dr. Tee, do you advocate for people who are experiencing a lot of stress to talk about it, to share it with someone else, or to physically try to work it through to exercise or to do other things? I know the other options would be to reach out for some drinks or to overindulge in certain activities. Yes. What would you recommend as, do this first? If you cannot, then you try the next one. What is the health? What ranges from healthy to not healthy?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Ernest. And we are actually moving on to the discussion on psychological coping mechanisms at the moment. So individuals actually manage or cope with stresses differently. Some of us tend to seek solace and comfort in connecting with others. So if that works for you, by all means, go ahead and deal with it. And yeah, I'm going to acknowledge your point in saying that there are a few of my colleagues and friends as well who do take a good drink and they use it to relax. But do recognize that it becomes problematic if that is the substance that you rely on in order to cope with your stress, right? For some of us, we like to rationalize, or a manner of speaking, intellectualize our emotions. So we do find it easier to journal them, to type out all our day-to-day events. And there's very good science to say that when we journal our emotions, our day-to-day experiences, we actually help make sense of the irrational in us. So that's another great way. For those of us who like to, say, focus much more on the positive sides of things, practicing self-compassion, which I mentioned, is beneficial, but also with the very simple practice of acknowledging the goodness and things that you can be grateful and thankful for over the course of your day. So it might be something quite as simple as, I enjoyed, really tasty Grab food delivery, which is delivered on time. I've been craving this dish for a very long time. I managed to get it today. Yeah, practice the habit of cultivating and focusing on all that's going well in spite of our current circumstances. Many different ways to cope. So I've mentioned in this case, interacting with your close friends, practicing self-compassion, practicing gratitude, focusing on the positives. Exercising, we forgot to mention as well, is also recommended by many authorities as an excellent way of coping. And we do know that people often get a buzz of the feel-good neurotransmitters when they engage in rigorous, say, cardiovascular activity. So if that works for you, by all means, piece together and come up with your own custom, tailor-made approach to managing your stresses during this time.
So I guess everybody has their own way of doing it. You just have to know your body and know yourself best to do whatever you think is better for your body then and your mindset.
Yes, some approaches, will be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective. I wouldn't advocate taking up drinking at this time, although that sounds like a possibly appealing thing for those of you who are used to bars and cafes and pubs and whatnot. But yeah, other approaches tend to work well.
One of the other side effects I would say about the MCO is actually people who work from home. And a lot of comments that I've been catching through social media and also through WhatsApp groups that I'm interacting with, they say that working from home is actually worse than working at the office, because working from home is 24/7, 365, full-on mode. You have your computer on, you've got your handphone on, you've got whatever other devices that you may have on as well, and messages are coming fast and furious. And they are saying that they are unable to cope with so many points of distraction, let alone the children at home, let alone the things that you need to get done at home. Any advice for these people? Is there something that we can do to just say, okay, shut up during this period, don't bug me, I'll attend to you after my con call? But it's difficult if you have a crying child.
Yes. I can't speak for the parents, not being a parent myself, but you're spot on in identifying all the hassles and all the challenges. Working from home it might have sounded ideal. Yeah, I'm working from the comfort of my own bedroom, but with it comes along the expectation and the obligation to be responsive. You're expected to be on your computer, on your WhatsApp, attending to every single message and email that actually comes through. So I would say what's really happening if we diagnose the situation is that there is a blurring, if not a complete sort of removal of the boundaries between work and non-work. Work is in your bedroom right now. Work is in your living room right now. I know some colleagues previously as well, they have taken their laptop to their bed, so they're very much sleeping with their work. Not healthy, definitely. I would say clearing up boundaries, setting clear boundaries between work and non-work is essential. I know, say, friends and associates of mine who work in a completely different environment. So psychologically, they associate one particular place in their home to be for work and the others not to be. Now, truth be told, not all of us have the luxury of space, all right? Some of us live in slightly more modest homes. So if you can't draw the boundaries in terms of space, it's helpful to draw the boundaries in terms of your time, right? So one effective way is what we refer to as time boxing, all right? And this essentially means that, okay, I'm gonna set aside a set amount of time by my very modest and very reasonable estimate, how long it will take me to complete this task, focus on it, remove all distractions, cut off my access to Facebook. It may sound really brutal, but it works, right? To focus your attention towards that one task that needs to be done. I personally find it very helpful to do the most difficult things first thing in the morning, because that means that once I'm done with it before breakfast, I feel like I've pretty much accomplished the day already. So if that works for you, that can be a very beneficial way of maintaining your productivity, and then also segregating between times in which you spend for your professional job and the times in which you spend dedicating towards taking care of your household, taking care of your children, playing with your children, speaking to your spouse, empathizing with your spouse on issues and challenges that they may be facing as well. So yeah, just a couple of approaches there: remove distractions, separate work from non-work in terms of space, and also in terms of your time. Also, I want to say that be disciplined with when you get off work. I've been ruthlessly protective of my weekends, and I don't think it's us being selfish doing so. Some of us, if you can afford that, block out the times on your weekends to rest, to recharge, because you're only going to come back a whole lot better, a lot more productive the following week.
One of the bigger challenges with your advice, although it's extremely sage and cogent, is that this thing that everybody has, at least one of them in their pockets nowadays, just gives everybody access to you 24/7. And now with the phone calls being free, messages being free, so when you sleep, other people are awake and messages come through. And I still feel that, people who put their phones next to them when they sleep in bed, they are also still exposing themselves to work potentials. Whenever the phone rings, it may cause them some anxiety. It's like, oh, what is it now again?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you were saying just now about not sleep hygiene, what you're telling me about is work hygiene. And having a discipline to actually say, okay, work is work, just get work done. Discipline to take time off, to rest, recharge, and do the other things that are obligatory, maybe your family and whatnot, but also take time for yourself.
Yes.
Excellent. Doctor, out of curiosity, during this MCO, how do you de-stress in your own home?
In my own home, well, I play video games quite a fair bit, and I try to pick up my guitar again. So the reason why I find that more enjoyable, and I play video games not on my computer because I've come to associate too heavily with work. So a few games on my laptop, but I do play on a console instead. So I play on the PlayStation 4. And I think these are what we call sufficiently engaging activities, in that they occupy your thought patterns. You have to think about how you're going to coordinate the controls of your character on screen. You have to think about which chords to strum, which strings to pick on the guitar. And so what tends to happen is that your cognitive resources are occupied towards the activity. It is engaging, and before you know it, you lose track of time. And we don't fixate so much on the anxiety associated with the virus outside. Checking our news is enough. If you're constantly on the newsfeed or on social media and you're seeing that the rate of new infections are increasing, number of deaths are increasing, then that is going to be frightening, and that's going to stress you out even further. Redirect your cognitive efforts towards things that you intrinsically enjoy and can be cognitively engaged in. So yeah, just two things that I do: video games and the guitar.
The last question before I let you go. What if someone who has tried all the advice that we've talked about and done everything they think that they could come up with, and still they are unable to cope? What would your advice be?
I think if you have exhausted all possibilities and all, say, avenues, maybe you've scrolled through websites telling you that you should not worry about your productivity, I would say it's no shame, no harm, and definitely in the interest of your mental health to seek some professional advice. There's no shortage of counseling services, mental health services as well. You can speak to someone on the other line who has been trained to be compassionate, to be empathetic to your concerns. I'm sure that such services are ringing off the hook at the moment. The reason why I'm advocating this is because individuals vary, firstly, in the extent to which they can cope with difficult circumstances and situations, but we also need to be careful and concerned that we might actually be tipping over to a point where it has become problematic to our long-term health. If we have not been eating right, if we cannot sleep right, if we're in a constant state of a depressed mood for an extended period of time, we are constantly anxious for that matter, and we cannot concentrate, then that might be a very strong indication. And if this goes on for a long period of time, then it may be a very strong indication that you have a mental health concern that needs some professional guidance and some professional advice. Again, there's a whole lot of stigma, and you actually know this, but rest assured that you're doing the very best that you can, and taking that step forward, it's not shameful. It is necessary if you are to come back stronger, if you are going to come back as a more able individual to not only yourself, but to those around you.
I think that's fantastic advice, Dr. Tee. And it always says that, you are important. You're going to be important to your family members, so don't punish yourself too hard. There's always another way out.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We had an excellent conversation with Dr. Eugene Tee, who shared with us tips, tools, tricks on how you can actually address your stress and to use your stress to actually improve for future, use it for the future to make it better and make you more resilient for the future. So Dr. Tee, thank you so much again for your time. Thank you so much for your sharing. Most of all, I wish you the very best. Stay safe, and we'll catch you soon after the MCO period.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Ernest.
Thank you.